In 1856-57, there were some archaeologists in Rome excavating a building from the time of the Roman Empire. It was a curious building. It was kind of like a house, but at the same time it was more than a house. It had been a sort of boarding school, and it was used by, well, there'd be boys, age, well, hard to really know, but probably from about 7 or 8 up to about 14 or 15. And these boys were being educated and trained so that they could go into service of the emperor. They would become page boys, they would become servants. Some of them were slaves, it's thought. Now, in their excavations, they uncovered some walls on which there was still bits of the plaster that had been there. And amongst the bits of plaster, they came across a scratching, a graffito, strictly speaking. Somebody taken a knife and they'd carved into the plaster some drawings and a little bit of writing below. One of the things it represented was a male, probably one of the members of the little school, and he's got his hand up like that, and he's worshipping, because it's a throwback to one of the ancient gestures of prayer, both Christian and pagan, where a person would do that in prayer. You still see it at Mass. It's an ancient practice. And he's looking up at a figure. And the figure is on a cross. And below the figure, below the image of the boy, it's very crudely done. Below that, there is some lettering. It's in Greek. And it says, Alexamenos, that's the name of the boy who's worshipping. Alexamenos, worshipping his God. And there's this figure on the cross. Now, the curious thing about the figure is that it's the body of a man, and yet he has a donkey's head, the head of a donkey. It's one of the earliest representations we have of the Christian God on the cross. But this has this twist to it. It's Christ with the head of a donkey. Now, of course, it's in mockery. The scratching goes back to about the year 200. And at that time in Rome, Christianity was not being persecuted very violently. In fact, it was kind of being tolerated. Persecution in the Roman Empire came in waves and in sporadic bursts in different parts of the empire and in Rome. And it must be that one of the boys in the school has let on to somebody else that he's a Christian. And the friend has mocked him for his religion. He's displayed the God of the Christians as a donkey. I suppose it's to do with the idea, what kind of God allows himself to be crucified? What kind of God permits human beings to subject him to the most ignominious death that was known at the time? This was the kind of death that was given to people who were regarded as weirdos, perverts, people who you just didn't countenance. That's how they treated them. So what kind of God would allow himself? He could only be a donkey. Only a donkey. And of course it's a mockery, not just of the God of the Christians, but of Alexamenos and all the other believers in Christ. What kind of fool worships a God like this? It's in a school where somebody is being mocked for his faith, made fun of. Now, it's been preserved, the plaster carving, because they thought it's just unique. Nothing like that has been seen before. And it's now in a museum. You can go and see it. At the end of the gospel there, Jesus said, "Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account." It's as if those words are applied to Alexamenos and others. Some of the people who are going to be confirmed, they're here this morning to enroll on the program, teenagers. And they know, and I think probably you know, that how you reveal your faith in school to your fellow students, well, you have to be careful, because you can be mocked for it, made fun of for it, and to have the audacity to remark that you go to church, well, what kind of fool does that? What kind of fool worships this God with all of this lovey-dovey stuff? Jesus goes through a series of groups of people, or a series of qualities in people that are to be an aspiration. It's really interesting. Matthew's version of the Sermon on the Mount is very different to Luke's. In Luke, you hear Jesus talk about those who are poor are blessed, those who are hungry are blessed. Here it's the poor in spirit, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. It's about the content of the heart, the musings of the mind. That Jesus speaks of the kind of follower that he wants, a person who is gentle and meek, a person who can get pushed around, but a person who has aspirations for a better kind of world. Not just a better world for them, not just that they should be personally successful, but the world should be a better place. That's the idea. The truth is, the world in which we live, while it pays some lip service to this, and there are a lot of people who are religious who would say, yes, they commit to the faith of Jesus Christ. But let's be honest. Your aim must also be to have the most money, the biggest house, the fastest car, all of the attributes of a go-getter, a person who does well in the sight of others. And Jesus gives us a different list of priorities. a different approach. And he's pointing something out that's so profound, that if we're truthful, it's people who have these qualities that make our lives worth living. People who are merciful with us, people who are gentle with us, people who want what is right. These are the things to be sought in life, and these are the people who really make a difference to our lives. It doesn't necessarily catch the headlines. It doesn't necessarily win the admiration of the world. But I suppose a gospel like this is to make me think, what kind of God do I worship? What kind of fool am I?